Hey, what's going on? It's your girl Rainey from Blessings and Gems. I just got in from the gym and I wanted to talk to you today about the earthquake that happened in New York today, where I'm actually at this specific time. I want to share a little bit with you about what I was doing, what it felt like, what other New Yorkers were doing at that time, and then kind of what was the takeaway from this earthquake. So in New York, in the financial district, downtown Manhattan, on the 13th floor of a very large building, was actually with some teammates of mine. We had hired a construction team, or a construction person, I should say, to come in and start doing some work on the space that we were in, because we're going to be exiting that space. And so at the same time that the earthquake was going on, this gentleman was sort of drilling and moving about. And what it felt like at the time that we thought he was drilling, but we now know it was an earthquake, or we soon found out later on, very soon after, was like tremors. It was like the building was shaking, but it wasn't, a huge rumble, but it was a noticeable sort of rumbling, if you will, underneath our feet. We kind of looked at each other and it was kind of like, was that an earthquake? Nah, that's just him doing construction over there. But we soon started to get text messages from our loved ones, and we realized that we had just been part of an earthquake. Now, I used to live in California many, many years ago, and this was nothing like that. Those earthquakes in California are typically the real deal in terms of the intensity, the fear that you might feel, and all the things that go along with that. Things falling off the wall, and I remember the building sort of swaying, and I was sitting there going, "Oh my gosh!" And I was actually at my job at the time, and I got up, ran out into the parking lot, and I was on the phone with a customer at the time, and I said, "Hey, I've got to go. There's an earthquake going on." Hung up, ran outside, and all my coworkers were sitting there still working, and it was kind of like, what's wrong with Rainey? Because I'm not from California, so it was they're a little bit more desensitized to earthquakes. Fast forward, or conversely, I should say, New Yorkers are very sensitive to earthquakes, because that's not something that happens typically here in this region, in the Northeast region, in terms of where the earthquake actually happened. Thankfully, it was only a 4.8 earthquake, as many of you probably know. So again, it was rumbling. There were some feelings in terms of tremors and those sorts of things. But thank gosh, there was nothing really earth-shattering happening at the time. No pun intended. What New Yorkers were doing, like myself, or as we were calling our loved ones, we were texting people. People were texting us. A lot of people who really maybe felt it, so people at lower levels ran outside. People were screaming. People just were shocked. I think a lot of people were numb, because we just didn't know what was this, right? Particularly, let me give you an example. So if your building, or if you're physically located near a New York City subway, the ground shakes all the time if you're by a subway that runs underground. So it's not uncommon to go, "Oh yeah, that's just a subway." So again, depending on where people were, was dictated their responses, so to speak, right? So just a lot of different emotion around that. There was some footage online where they showed people running out of their cafes, and because they really did feel it based on where the tremors were happening at that time. And then also the structure of the building. I was in a commercial grade building. It's not built like the California building. So when I lived in California, I learned that the buildings, or especially the newer buildings, are built for earthquakes, and they kind of sway back and forth. And they're built for that mobility, if you will, and that agility to sway back and forth when an earthquake happens, for those newer buildings. New York buildings are not built for that. So, a lot of emotion around this earthquake today. And for the most part, for the people that I know, after people kind of realized what happened, and then we all got these emergency texts from our mayor on our phones, letting us know that not only was there an earthquake, but there would be aftershocks. We started to brace ourselves for then the aftershocks, right? I had a friend who was driving over the Brooklyn Bridge at the time, and there were several aftershocks. She said she felt one of the aftershocks. We were, again, on the 13th floor of a commercial grade building, so we didn't feel the aftershocks. One of the things that I thought about and that I want you to think about, and this is the reason why I'm doing a vlog, like, what's the takeaway, right? My first thought, friends, was we've got to do a better of taking care of Mother Earth, right? The Earth is speaking to us. And, with global warming, tsunamis, hurricanes, and there's all kinds of weather patterns and weather incidences that are happening in places that they typically don't happen. We need to be aware. I mean, we really need to be aware. So if you are a person who just goes, well, this is not going to happen in my town. We don't know anymore what's going to happen in our towns. We really, really don't. So whatever you can do to do your part to take care of Mother Earth, what maybe it's recycling, maybe it's taking shorter showers, maybe it's making sure that the water that you're running, and I just happened to see this at the gym today. Somebody left the water on, and people are like walking past this water, and I'm like, oh my gosh, shut the water off already, for God's sakes, right? These are precious resources, and we're only on this earth and part of this ecosystem for a short time. They said today on the news that there's not only going to be, well, there was an aftershock or a couple of aftershocks today, but those aftershocks could actually show up in the next day or two. And so, I was talking with someone just a couple of minutes ago, and the person was like, oh my gosh, I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was gonna die. What I started to think about, and that's what kind of provoked me to make this video for you, was if you thought you were going to die, or if we think about our mortality, right? Not in a way that's gloomy and dark and all that other stuff, but know that all of us have a finite time on this earth. I want to ask you, friend, what are you doing with your one and only precious life? What are we doing? So this is a time for me, and that's why I wanted to share it with you. It's really revisiting some of the things that we've been talking about on this channel, which is thinking about your purpose and why are you here at a specific time as this. It's thinking about your passion. It's thinking about your vision and what are you supposed to be doing to contribute to this earth at this specific time. Why were you born at this specific time? There is something that you're supposed to be doing. And I urge you, like nobody's business, to go and figure that out. I really think it's important, in my opinion and in my life. The first thing, and one of the reasons why I started this channel, was because I am in link more so ever with my creator, who I call God. But it doesn't matter what you call or who you call your creator. I am urging you to align with what that is and get busy. We are so busy wasting time. I've really thought after COVID, the height of COVID, by the way, that there was this time, I should say, during the height of COVID, where there was a sense of community. People were bonded together. There was all of these things that, companies were sort of taking a look at their practices and how they treat people. We were looking at how we treated one another. A lot of us became closer with family. Sometimes some of us became more distant from family, but most of us began to forge community, if not with our blood relatives, with other people. It could have even been people in your neighborhood. It could have been people that live next to you, or even the people that you visit at the store every week. So I urge you to kind of start thinking about that again. and to really think about who is your tribe, who is your community, who loves you, who are you in love with, and go after it. Lean into that love and that light that you know is out there and that you've touched. And maybe you see it and it's over here and you're taking it for granted. We don't know how much longer we have here, is what I'm saying. So this is not a gloom and doom video. I hope you're not taking it as such. It's really kind of urging you to start thinking about the precious resource that we have, which is called time. It's not promised to us. We can't predict anything anymore in terms of weather planning, some of the historic ways that the climate behaved are no longer. And some of us are still sitting around waiting for what? I don't know. Like, I really don't know. So my friends, my loves, I really want you to just think about all of that. This video was not scripted. I wanted to do some sort of a vlog because I just wanted to talk to you from the heart. I just really wanted to talk to you from the heart. So I hope you receive it that way. It doesn't matter where you are in the United States or in the world. The takeaways that I shared are applicable to all of us. I don't live in fear, and you know that I don't promote fear, and I don't want you living in fear. But what I do want you to do is to think about, again, who you are, why you are here, the positive impact that you can make with what time that we have on this rock, and go after it and live your passion, live your purpose, and be happy.